Hang tight, everybody. We'll be on in just a second. Hello, everybody. Just doing a live update regarding the ice storm that is coming tomorrow, and it is definitely going to be an ice storm. So we're going to talk through kind of what's going to be happening with this event, just the possibility of ice across much of lower Michigan and then snow across northern Michigan. This winter storm is going to have a lot of impacts for the lower peninsula, and even parts of northeastern Indiana and northwest Ohio could see some ice from this as well. Probably not enough to cause very significant impacts, but we're going to do an update on all of it. So before we do that, make sure to subscribe. This is going to be a live update and maybe possibly a potential ice chasing day tomorrow. Definitely not going to go too far out, as I definitely don't want to get myself in a bind, but I think there's going to be some good opportunities to get out there and see some pretty interesting ice formations, and unfortunately the potential for some ice damage that could occur. So we're just going to get right into it with the latest on the weather event that is coming. All right, there we go. We are all set up now. Alrighty, so here we have the Weather Prediction Center's website kind of showing exactly what is going to be happening over the course of the day tomorrow. Again, the day 2 outlook does show that decent potential for freezing rain across much of southern lower Michigan. If I do a quick zoom in of that chart there, we'll load this up real quick. If I do show for Wednesday, February 22nd, that freezing rain potential, again, keep in mind this is a very, very difficult forecast for pretty much everyone, because it's really hard to tell exactly where those freezing rain bands are going to set up and where they will not. Okay, so it's going to be a very difficult forecast, even up to the point where we actually have the event going on. So it's just gonna, we're definitely just gonna have to keep a close eye on how the models evolve over the next few hours. The event starts likely early tomorrow morning around 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So that's when we can expect to see some pretty decent freezing rain starting to fall across much of the area, including northern Indiana will be included in that, but it will be focused up in this area of lower Michigan. So the real thing here is how quickly the warm front rises off to the north and how quickly the rain is falling, because all of that will have an influence on the amount of snow that is going, or the amount of freezing rain that's going to be falling. So first things first, I do want to show the amount of school closings that are already coming in. There is a very large amount of school closings coming in across many different counties. You have Branch County, Calhoun counties completely shut down in Michigan. Eaton County, Kalamazoo County is beginning to shut down. Muskegon, Kent counties, areas all across Michigan are starting to shut down because of this expected ice storm that's going to be moving through. So that area is going to continue to see closures throughout the evening and likely into the morning as well. Now, it's very interesting. A lot of places in Branch and Calhoun counties are already shutting down, despite the fact that there's lower ice potential in that area. It just, out of an abundance of caution, I think there's some schools that are going to be shutting down and trying to just keep everyone safe as they are out on the roads tomorrow. So let's take a look at the models now with this particular setup. First of all, here is the guidance on the freezing rain potential that we do have across lower Michigan. Let me zoom it out real quick. My mouse wheel's having a bit of issues right now, so bear with me while I try to get this all set in stone. But let's zoom in on southern Michigan here. Oops. See, my mouse wheel's having issues here. But this is at 1 a.m. on Thursday, okay? Or not Thursday. This is actually set up a little bit differently than what I anticipated. But here is what the setup shows right now. You do have that 80 to 90% chance of probability of freezing rain exceeding the amount of 0.1 or a tenth of an inch. That's what's currently being shown there, and that stretches along a line extending from Ann Arbor up towards north of Kalamazoo, areas in that it could be influenced by this freezing rain band. It's not loading, it's having an issue loading real quick, so just bear with the internet here. It's still trying to update as we go through this, and my mouse wheel's having issues, but still trying to work out with the tech that we got here. So here's a better view. Farmington Hills, Sterling Heights, you have that 70 to 80% chance of potential of seeing freezing rain greater than a tenth of an inch. It kind of stretches kind of over a broad area according to what some of the models are showing. And then you also have down here, don't want to look at the Michigan portion here, but you have the probability of 70 to 80% chance anywhere along Portage down towards Hillsdale, and then 50 to 70% chance as you get down towards northeastern Indiana, northwest Ohio. Much of St. Joe County is included in that, Branch County, Calhoun County. This is what the National Weather Service is projecting for ice potential. Very interestingly enough, despite the fact that the Weather Prediction Center does show this, the National Weather Service Northern Indiana does argue that it's likely not going to be too much ice in parts of southern Michigan, extreme southern Michigan. And part of the reason for that is because they believe that the warm front's going to lift off to the north too quick. And I'll show you how that is depicted on the models in just a minute. It's a very difficult forecast, not something that's going to be very easy to come up with good ideas regarding how it's going to work. But it is definitely still good to take precautions out of an abundance of caution for these events. So let's turn right to the models real quick and get an idea of how this thing is going to unfold. I'm going to go to the HRRR model first because it's really good at giving an idea of how this ice storm will unfold and how pretty much any storm will unfold. HRRR is a very reliable model that we can use, so we're going to change over to the HRRR real quick. You can see it there. So let's progress it forward in a loop image. Alright, so hopefully everyone can see that. I'm going to turn the camera here for people viewing on Instagram. But we're going to show how this is going to unfold. Here you notice this warm air mass right here. Technically right now, this cool air mass and this warm air mass are competing for area over the Great Lakes region. And what you're going to see is, as a matter of fact, in southern Indiana, southern Ohio, you're going to have temperatures upwards towards 70 degrees in some spots. And just the strength of that warm air down to the south is going to have a profound influence on the moisture that's being pulled up into this cool air mass that will enable that moisture to condense, and if the environment is correct or proper, get that freezing rain potential start to be seen. So here is what is currently being depicted by the models. This is Wednesday early morning. You notice there's a nice solid batch of freezing rain right here being shown by the models. It's a solid pink in this area. Northern Indiana, even down towards Fort Wayne, is showing freezing rain according to the HRRR model at this point. I do think down in that area it's going to be relatively brief because we do have that warm front moving into the area. And if you get a sounding or kind of a dissection of what's going on in the atmosphere, you notice a very interesting environment right here on this QT chart. This chart measures the temperature at different altitudes across the atmosphere. So you do notice there is a lot of low-level directional shear in this area, a lot of lift. There's a storm relative velocity of 400. There's a lot of spin and vertical lift in the atmosphere, which is able to strengthen these cells of freezing rain. And as a matter of fact, there could even be some thunder and lightning with this. I would not be surprised to see some thunder and lightning associated with this freezing rain event moving through. But notice here, above the 1 kilometer mark, you do have that temperatures well above freezing. You have temperatures probably close to 40, mid-40s, a kilometer above the surface of the ground, and then below that you have temperatures below freezing, about 31 degrees. So that setup right there that you see is what enables freezing rain to occur and pretty much determines how much freezing rain you'll see. Now, I know the temperature at the surface is not very cold. If we are 2 degrees warmer, it's likely that that ice won't stick, but still, it's close enough to be a cause for concern across the area as that moves through. So let's get back to the radar and get an idea of what's going on. So progressing it forward, you do see that that freezing rain does tend to stick around much of southern Michigan and that area in extreme northeastern Indiana, northwestern Ohio. You're still getting that freezing rain across parts of that area. Now you notice here you do have some cells that are yellow and red. These may actually have some lightning with them. And we've got a little bit of potential for lightning set up with this because there is a lot of lift with these little cells that are popping up, and there is going to be some instability with this as well. And one thing that's so difficult about this forecast is if this amount goes a little bit to the north, we could see rain mainly down here, but if it goes a little bit to the south, we could see a lot of ice down in this area as well. This forecast is very, very difficult because it's very hard to tell how quickly the warm front's going to move off to the north and make it so that we won't really have the ability to get a lot of ice accumulation in certain areas. But you do see that there is going to be a lot of sleet, freezing rain across much of the area here, and it's going to kind of continue throughout quite a bit of the morning hours. And then the HRRR does project that it will shift to a little bit of rain around 10 a.m. on Wednesday. So you see there's quite a bit of rain in the extreme southern parts of Michigan and even some thunder and lightning. Look at these cells out here. These cells actually look like some thunderstorm cells that could pack some strong thunderstorms. There's actually a slight risk for severe weather across parts of this region with these cells that will be developing. Some cold core events going on there, but really interesting to see that. And then you do have that sleet that is going to be moving through, possibly returning, according to the HRRR model, in parts of Kalamazoo County, Calhoun County, and then areas northward. But you can see there's a lot of variables at play with this system. Just the change of temperatures aloft and the change of temperature at the surface will have a huge influence in how much ice many different people will be seeing. I will take a look at the ice totals real quick with this model as well, compare all the models and what they're saying. And there is a likelihood that I will be out doing some ice chasing, talking about more rain than freezing rain, but I live in Leonidas, very close. See, Leonidas is where my school is at, and I think that, well, the school that's right next to Leonidas has shut down for tomorrow. I do think that's going to start to impact some of the schools around the other area or the other areas near there as well. I think you'll get at least some freezing rain. I'll show you the ice accumulations for Leonidas in just a minute, but you're right on the border of Kalamazoo County, and Kalamazoo County does have that ice storm warning. Now, the National Weather Service Northern Indiana does say that it's going to be mainly rain, and they're probably correct in that assumption, but I still think there's going to be ice in the morning, and that ice could potentially last into the afternoon before fully melting off, especially on those bridges and overpasses, and I do think it could still accumulate on those trees and on those power lines where the air is still cool enough underneath in order to allow that ice to kind of stay there for a more prolonged period of time. So that's kind of my concern with the setup in St. Joe County. So I do think if you're in Sturgis or areas there, I don't think you're going to see too much from this. It's not going to be too impactful. Places anywhere south probably of M60 probably don't really have much to worry about other than a few hundredths of an inch of ice across parts of that area. So this is why you may notice the distinct gradient between the ice storm warnings and and absolutely nothing in St. Joe County. Let me pull that up real quick. By the way, Pivotal Weather's website is accessible to everyone, and it's the website I just used for reference here. So let me pull this up real quick. You can see ice storm warnings stretching all the way across from Michigan, from South Haven towards Detroit regions, and then that winter weather advisory showing potential for about a tenth of an inch of ice in those counties. And then this area does not have anything. The expectation is that that warm front will lift so far north that there won't be enough ice to cause really a lot of impacts. But I do think extreme northern parts of the counties, especially if you live in northern Berrien County, right here, close to where Benton Harbor's at, I really think you could see still some decent ice as well from this event. So if you're up there, you still want to pay attention. But the lake breeze may also influence that and make it just generally rain. But still, a lot of different things going on here. Let me show you the ice accumulation totals according to all the different models. These are all the models, what all the different models are showing. Let me check and make sure there's no questions from anyone else. I don't really see any. So here we have the ice accumulation totals. Let's first take a look at the GFS. Now, again, the GFS does tend to go a little bit too far into some of these projections. It does show 1.5 inches of ice, which, again, if that happened, everything would be shut down in a heartbeat. But I really think the blend of models does have a good assessment on how things are going to unfold. If you look at it, you do see the ice accumulation totals in Kalamazoo County around 3/4 inches, and I have noticed a trend that the ice is beginning to shift farther to the south according to the NWS blend of models. So again, something the National Weather Service has been mentioning in their outlooks is the fact that there is the potential that this ice accumulation could shift for a county south or a county to the north, anywhere from that distance. So again, not pulling places such as central St. Joseph County out of the water from this just yet, central Cass County, Branch County. I'm not pulling those counties completely out just yet. There is potential that they could still see some decent ice accumulations, but that still depends on the rate of passage of that warm front. So we'll have to see how that unfolds. But again, ice accumulation potential of close to even 1/2 inch across parts of Eaton County, Calhoun County, places that definitely are going to want to hunker down for this event. Places such as Charlotte, Marshall, Battle Creek, Ann Arbor, places around that region should be ready for some significant ice accumulations with this particular event. And a lot of the models have been trending along with the NWS blend recently. The NAM, one thing to point out about the NAM model is that the NAM had the ice accumulation totals way up here when it first came out. Now it's shifted much farther to the south. So noticing that southward trend with the NAM also could follow suit with some of the other models later on as well. So, but you do notice there's quite a bit of consistency with that southern Michigan play with all of the different models that are shown here. So I do think anywhere in this region will likely see some form of ice accumulation. Very minimal ice accumulation if you're in the southern counties, and a lot of ice accumulation if you're in this region. There is potential for me to go out and do some ice spotting, ice chasing. I'm not going to be stupid and drive out into places that are extremely icy, but I'm going to try to be wise in how I handle this. But I do want to go out and take a look at some of the ice accumulations that do occur. So I do expect that if you live in the southern counties of Michigan, ice is going to melt very, very quickly on Thursday because temperatures are expected to rise in near 50 degrees because that warm front is so strong and that warm air mass behind that warm front is so strong that we could see that quick warm up that will melt things in this region rather quickly. I think up here ice might stick around for a while because temperatures won't get too warm up there. Ice and snow. In fact, speaking of the snow, areas farther to the north in northern Michigan are going to see quite a bit of decent snowfall from this. So let's get a look at that real quick, comparing the models here. Shows 6 to 8 inches. Areas north of Grand Rapids, 6 to 8 inches in some spots. The GFS is showing, pretty much all the models are showing that similarity in parts of northern Michigan, even places getting close to a foot in parts of northern Michigan as well. There's winter storm warnings out up there for a lot potential to see a lot of different things with this setup. So really the question is, who's going to see the ice in this area? Who's going to see the most? And I do think it's going to focus in between the I-94, I-96 corridor, and then around the I-69 corridor. We'll see that as well. I really think that's the focus of the ice, but again, enough ice to cause problems could occur in parts of extreme southern Michigan, the extreme southern counties as well. That's pretty much all I think I can really show about this ice storm potential. How much ice for Lapeer County? Well, let's have a look at that. Lapeer County, Michigan. Let's pull it up. Lapeer County. Okay, so you're a little bit northwest of Flint. Let's have a look real quick. We're going to zoom in on Michigan to do this. Let me get my total ice graphic out. And we will take a look at Lapeer County. Again, Lapeer County, really I do see ice potential up here. I think you guys do have an ice storm warning in effect, and that northern mode of ice is looking probable with this setup. I do think you guys have about a good decent chance of seeing 1/4 of an inch of ice from this accumulating, especially if you live in southern Lapeer County. So that's going to be the thing to really watch for. So it looks like in the southern portion you'll have about 1/4 of an inch to 3/10 of an inch, and then the northern portion 1/10 of an inch of ice. Again, that's, you can measure that out about a county's distance north or south. That could change your ice accumulation totals, because again, there's still some variables we got to watch with that warm front, warm air mass, and the changing temperatures aloft and at the surface that could influence the amount of ice that we have. So this is why the National Weather Service is very leery between the Indiana and Grand Rapids to kind of all say the same thing about this, because there's a lot of variables at play with this ice setup, as I have said many times throughout forecasting this particular event. But yeah, I-69 region's definitely going to have that really decent ice potential around Calhoun County. And then you can kind of notice that the ice potential trend has shifted a little bit to the south. And that's something I'm noticing with this model as well, that the ice accumulation totals are shifting a little bit to the south. So I'm going to want to watch for some decent ice accumulations possible even in parts of northern St. Joe, northern Cass County. We're going to have to wait to see what the National Weather Service does determine on that, but they also project that the warm front's going to move north rather quickly, so we'll just have to see how things turned out. Kind of cold tonight. I think I could be wrong. Well, we could see. It is rather cold tonight. The low temperature was supposed to be 31 degrees, and right now if I were to turn on my backlight for my thing here, it is 27 degrees right now outside of my house here in southeastern Kalamazoo County. So anything's possible. We're just going to have to wait to see exactly how things will unfold. But that's pretty much all. Any other questions before I head out, I will be happy to take them. And yeah, it's not going to be good with the wind. Wind gusts are also expected to get up to 45 miles an hour. Let me take a look at that real quick. If you go to the wind gusts connected to this event, you can kind of see that the wind gusts will reach 30 to 40 miles an hour. If I back it up to the time the storm's actually moving through, you can notice 45, even up to 50 miles an hour in some spots connected with this event moving through. So it is going to be windy, and that is going to cause quite a decent amount of power outages, especially with the extra weight, and probably a lot of trees down as well. I do think there's going to be some significant damage after this ice storm that's going to have to be cleaned up from. The last time we had an ice storm warning for anywhere in Michigan was in 2013 before Christmas. So long time since we've had an ice storm like this. So we're going to have to be watching and being aware of this event. Don't drive on the roads. If you can avoid driving tomorrow, even if you live in extreme northern St. Joe County, avoid it. You really don't want to be in this situation. It's going to be very icy in a lot of areas, especially if you're in this area I'm kind of highlighting right now with my pointer. Definitely going to be pretty dangerous travel, and quite a bit of power outages, some damage, especially with those 45 mile per hour winds moving through. Power outages will most definitely be possible with this setup. So just stay updated. I may provide some live updates, and if I intend to chase this event, which it's likely that I will be out on the road somewhere tomorrow, at least during the morning when that freezing rain is going to be most prevalent, I will probably, if I can go back to my ice accumulation map real quick, focus my chase around this area right here, Calhoun County into Kalamazoo County. Those are the areas that I will likely be in if the ice does set up the way that it is showing on the models at the current moment, because there's going to be a lot of ice up here, and I do think these places will see some pretty decent impacts. But I think the most impacts will be up here. I'm not going to get out there because I don't want to be put other people in harm's way by my driving. So I'm going to try to stay at the place where it will still be a sustainable driving scenario for myself, whilst also still seeing some of that ice. So that is kind of the current plan, and stay tuned for that. If you want to see all of that happening, you can always go to my YouTube channel. I will also be streaming to Facebook and Twitch likely as well. So if you do want to get that info, I will be available on those platforms as well. Alright, that is all I'm going to do for today. Make sure that no other questions are put in. Happy to help with the updates, and I hope everyone stays safe during this event. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave a comment, send a message. I am always available, or most often available. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you all in a little bit.